think, can sense it right now.
To go, inbound to Weatherspoon with one. Weatherspoon puts up the three. It's no good!
The Liberty Flames are still dancing.
Fan the Flame to the biggest victory in school history.
Georgia to inbound, gets it to AC. Deep three, pull up. He banked it in! He banked it in!
Shot at the buzzer. Good! It's good! It's good! It's one more!
Larry Blair reverse layup up and in, and he's fouled.
Man, you talk about degree of difficulty.
With two, Georgie at the buzzer. Got it! He got it!
Darius McGee, a game for the ages.
And Liberty wins 4 games in the Big South Tournament to take home the 2013 crown.
Look at Bio Baxter now.
25 for Colin Porter.
Holmesley, splash.
Shiloh Robinson with an effort play.
And Liberty keeps on coming.
A huge basket by Kyle Rome.
Got it! Pacheco with the 3.
Liberty, put your dancing shoes on.
Well, hey, what's going on? Welcome to the AC of Red podcast. This is the basketball edition. Nick Kirby, joined by my guy, Will Matthews. A great time to be a Liberty fan. Ain't that right, Dr. Matthews?
It is, man. Both football and basketball, undefeated. I'm looking forward to going to Lynchburg on Friday to go to the championship game. Looking forward to couple of big games coming up in this stretch here for basketball.
Yeah, a huge week coming up for Liberty basketball. We will talk all about that with our guy Kaden Metheny coming off an incredible performance on Saturday. We'll talk with him. Also, last minute addition to the show, we're going to have a guy from the Florida Atlantic, a Sea of Red equivalent, going to join us to talk a little bit about their program and help us preview this huge matchup for Liberty on Tuesday. But, Will, I got to ask you first, right before we were coming on, I saw the coffee brewing. Did I not? That certainly is Ironclad coffee, right?
It is. It's a little bit of the bare knuckle. I got it in the mail this week, and it is chef's kiss. Shout out to Ironclad. They got it here quickly over the Thanksgiving holiday, and it's just as good as advertised.
And that was very easy to order on ironcladcoffee.com. Am I right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was, they've got some options there. You can get the ground. You can get the whole bean if you like to do it yourself. I got one of each because I do like to do it myself. And then I wanted to see what it was like ground already. And so it's really good, man. Easy to order, easy to drink as well.
No K-Cups in the Matthews house. Only the real stuff.
That's
for
right.
The for the North Carolinians. Well, good. Well, Ironclad Coffee, of course, proud sponsor of ASOR Red, proud sponsor of Liberty Basketball, taking over the entire city of Lynchburg and the entire state of Virginia as the number one coffee provider in our hearts. Of course, online orders on ironcladcoffee.com. Get your coffee just like Mr. Matthews did. Again, we always want to support companies that support Liberty, and no one better than Ironclad Coffee. All right, well, Will, it was a great week. We only had one game for Liberty basketball as they destroyed the UMES, that's Maryland Eastern Shore Hawks, 99-62. Kaden Metheny, as mentioned, going to be on the program here in a few minutes. 20 points, 5 for 7 from 3. Joseph Van Zandt, his first career double-double. Kyle Rode decided, hey, I didn't feel like scoring today. I'm just going to dish out 8 assists. And something that brings a smile to my cold heart. Liberty set a new program record with points per possession. This is beautiful basketball. People look at this, go, these games don't matter. No, this does. Liberty moved up in KenPom. This was one of Liberty's problems, Will, in some of the other years where they had really good teams. Like that 2019-20 and then the next year, really, really good teams, but they wouldn't just blow these teams out. And I know that might sound heartless, but you got to be heartless if you're a mid-major. You can't get scheduled against the big dogs, so you got to beat the snot out of teams like UMES, and they did it. They took care of business, and Liberty moved up into the top 40, highest KenPom ranking in school history.
Yeah, it's easy to overlook these games. I mean, you kind of look at Maryland Eastern Shore. Feels like we've played them 5 or 6 times over the last 2 years. But, you look at a game like this and you're like, easy win, and maybe a step up from region or something like that. But as you said, like these are the games that give you the opportunity to not only build, I guess, because it's early season, build that chemistry in a win, but really like put those numbers on your resume to really just show how dominant you are on the court.
When this was a classic trap game. I mean, you're coming off that tournament where you beat Furman, Wichita, and Vermont, and then you have Maryland Eastern Shore, and then you have Florida Atlantic and Charleston coming up. This is right in the middle of that classic trap game, classic game where you could at least, let a team hang around for a while, maybe only win by 6 or 7. And that it matters. It matters a ton when you're not getting the opportunities that Liberty doesn't get like a lot of other bigger programs. And this is what catapults you. It did the same thing for Florida Atlantic. We'll talk about them later on. They beat Virginia Tech by like 30-something points, and it shot them up like 15 spots in KenPom. And people might think that's not a big deal, but when you're the mid-major, that's the numbers they're looking at. It doesn't matter. You could go, 30-3, but if your KenPom's 80, no one's going to even consider you as an at-large.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw, I watched a little bit of Florida Atlantic's coach's his presser, and he talked a little bit about like just scheduling, how they were fortunate to get some P5s and on neutral courts. And, we didn't get any, we've got Alabama coming up, and Florida Atlantic is not a P5, but it's it's a really good team. And, we don't have some of those games, but we were able to get some really good mid-major games in that Myrtle Beach. And hey, it's just like what with football, like you can only play the next game ahead of you. And you've got to dominate those games that you're supposed to dominate.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm at the end of this game. I'm watching. I'm as locked in at the end of one of these games where I know you can really run the margin up just as much as if it's a 5-point game. I'm sick. I probably need help, but I enjoy it. Liberty getting a lot of love, again, continuing nationally, 38th in the others receiving votes, had 2 voters vote for them. Our guy, Dave Rearin, dropped Liberty down a couple spots. I'm not really sure how after dominating over UMS. I'm sure it's more about other teams and whatnot. And then a new voter from Fort Wayne, Indiana, put the Flames in for the first time. Dylan Sin. Yeah, Dylan. Ooh. Let's get it. And then some other guy dropped Liberty. I don't know why. I don't know how Liberty gets dropped after beating Maryland Eastern Shore by 37 points. But hey, it is what it is. But nonetheless, cool to see Liberty continue to get some love. And then Liberty, the field of 68, Liberty number 2 in their top 25 that came out today. And Liberty ranked number 25 in their top 25 rankings. I'm sure the fact that Liberty is playing in the field of 68 tournament this weekend has nothing, or showcase has nothing to do with Liberty being in the top 25. I'm sure that's completely irrelevant. But nonetheless, Will, really cool to see the Flames getting some national recognition.
Yeah. And, hey, JMU is right there in front of us. That hurts a little bit, but shout out to our guy. What was his name? Dylan Sin. It's a big deal when someone with the name Sin is ranking Liberty in a top 25. I think. I don't know if he's been to convocation 3 times a week or not, but we certainly want to invite him.
Yeah. We'll have Kaden Metheny on here in just a minute. We'll talk a little bit more about this upcoming match against Florida Atlantic and again against Charleston as well. But let's take a quick look at where things stand in the old Conference USA. Of course, Liberty up to 39, They were 38 at one point, fell down a spot. Some other teams just moving around. But this is the highest ranking in program history. First time Liberty's been inside the top 40, which obviously is really cool to see. Louisiana Tech continues to climb. I tweeted about it. Lipscomb was the only other team in a conference Liberty was in that was ranked inside of the top 100 that year that Liberty had those 3 games. Lipscomb was just incredible that year. An absolute travesty they didn't get in the NCAA tournament, as they kind of showed in the NIT, I think, that they deserve to be in as well. But that Lipscomb team was the only team since, like, I think 2007, the last time Winthrop was like a top 25 team, that Liberty's played in a conference with the top 100 team. So that's really cool to see. Louisiana Tech, they look really, really dangerous. Really excited for those matchups. Love that you get to play them twice. And then Sam Houston State, they're playing well. They're continuing to climb up into the top 150. UTEP just fell a little bit, but I think those are probably those top 4 feel like they're kind of separating a little bit from the pack. Middle Tennessee, they've kind of been a disappointment. They lost 3 in a row. Tough teams, UAB, Illinois, Chicago, and Ohio, all top 115 KenPom teams. But they're only 4-4 right now, so they've fallen down a little bit. And then kind of the bottom of CUSA was looking good for a while, but they've had some pretty rough performances over the last couple of weeks. But again, it's a long season. It's only November 27th. And I think we'll see a lot of movement. Conference USA did unfortunately fall, though, from 11 to 13 overall. Any kind of just quick observations from CUSA? Anyone kind of stand out on there, Will?
Yeah, I mean, Western Kentucky looks like they're starting to fall a little bit. I always have expectations for them to be pretty good, as well as Middle Tennessee, as you kind of touched on some of their misfortune a little bit. But Louisiana Tech really creeping up there in the top 100. We thought they would be, second or third in the conference this year. They're looking like they're going to be the real deal. Just love the Conference USA overall as far as the schedule that we are playing to get us prepared for Conference USA, but also just so much better to have some of these, top 150 KenPom teams like baked into your schedule already, as opposed to what we've had the last few years with the ASUN.
Yeah, and it was reported today that Delaware is expected to join CUSA. They're coming right now. They're at 151. So that's putting another team right smack in the middle of your conference rankings. Another quality program. I know they got a really good fan base and obviously that really small state, but I love colleges, Will, that you can add that have those strong fan bases, even if they're small. They have that good contingency, and I think Delaware kind of has that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know football drives everything, right? And today there was a storm on the old X about Delaware being added and how Liberty needs to get out of the Conference USA immediately. I like the Delaware ad. I like it for both football and basketball. And then there's talk of Tarleton coming in, UMass. That would probably be football only. I don't see them jumping out of the A-10 to come to the Conference USA unless Conference USA kind of demands that they be all sports.
They should.
That would be great. That'd be great. I've said it all day that, just from a perception, I'd rather have UMass than Tarleton. And a lot of that is tied in with basketball because UMass is a name in basketball. So, yeah, I'm excited. The conference, having another good team here in the next, was it 25, 26 or something like that they'll be added. They keep doing like they are. That's another, top 150 team added to our schedule.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and bring in our guy, Kaden Metheny, to talk about all things Liberty basketball. All right. We're joined now by Liberty guard Kaden Metheny. Kaden, off a huge performance, really shooting the ball well of 3. Just feeling really comfortable so far here with Liberty, 6-0.
Yeah, I mean, it's can't start any better, right? 6-0. So it's definitely been a great start for us.
Kaden, this game on Saturday that you guys played, obviously you're coming off that huge tournament where you played 3 really, really good schools. You have Florida Atlantic in the wings. This felt like a classic trap game, and you guys came out and you put up a huge margin. Were you guys kind of really proud of the way that you took this opponent on Saturday, very serious?
Yeah, I mean, credit to the coaches and our leaders, Kyle especially. Just on any given day, you never know. Any team can bring their A game and knock you off. So you never want to look too far ahead of the schedule, and you always just want to play in the present. And so we went out there like it was our last game and performed really well.
Kaden, thanks for joining us, man. We love watching you on the team this year, and all of you guys play. You guys had a long, road trip to Myrtle Beach. How was that for you? What was it like coming back after, a trip like that, coming home to the Liberty Arena, over Thanksgiving break? I mean, it looked good on TV. It looked like you guys had a pretty good crowd. How was your trip to Myrtle Beach, and what was it like coming home to home court?
Yeah, I mean, the Myrtle Beach tournament was awesome. We got to play some really quality opponents, and just getting us ready for Conference USA. We think we played some similar talent level teams to Conference USA, so that was a really good test for us. And also just a good way to bond with our teammates that we were there for 6 days. So really just cementing our relationship as a team off the court as well as on the court. And man, this team, we can't get any closer than what we are right now. It's one of the most connected teams I've ever been on. And the Myrtle Beach tournament was just another opportunity for us to grow our relationship off the court as well. And then it was nice coming back home and finally playing another home game. Felt like an eternity since we last played in Lynchburg here. So it was nice to play in front of the home crowd once again.
All right, so Kaden, your first 3 games in a Liberty uniform, you shot 2, 4, and 4 3-pointers. Last 3 games, 9, 6, and 7. Is that more of just a comfortability thing? Was that just those teams were maybe giving it to you more? You're feeling it? What's up with the big uptick? And obviously, you're shooting it really well.
Yeah, I think I mean, this team is so unselfish. So anybody, any given night can put that many shots up. We all believe in one another, and it's just a credit to my teammates. If I got it going, they know to find me, and as well as if Kyle's got it going, Colin's got it going, Brody, we know to get at them, because man, we can all shoot, and we can all put the ball in the basket, and that's what I think makes us such a tough out for other teams, because it's not a one-man show. We all can score the ball.
Yeah, you guys can, and you guys are showing that. It looks like such a seamless, balanced effort every night. And, the team lost a lot last year with Darius McGee, Blake Preston. But you guys, yourself and Xander and, others coming in, it looks like you guys have completely skipped November and are playing like March basketball. In terms of, how well y'all seem to be gelling as a team on the court, what contributes, do you think, you guys to playing so cohesively on not just offensively, but defensively too? Like, is it just like a steady force of some of those guys that have been there? Is it just the way the coaching staff is being with you guys, or is it a little bit of everything?
I think first and foremost, it's just how much we care for one another and how much joy we really have playing with one another. So when we go out there on the court, we're having so much fun with each other. And I think that carries over to how we perform as well. And it leads to us all being unselfish as well. And then also credit to the coaching staff and the leaders, me being a transfer, coming in and them just teaching me the ways early on, and making it as clear as possible of what I need to do out there to help us. And what all of us collectively need to do to perform. And but like I said earlier, it's we just have so much fun together. So I think that's what it comes down to, of us just loving being out there with one another, and then it shows in our performance.
All right, so Kaden, Liberty receiving votes in the top 25. Several publications have ranked you as high as 2 in among mid-majors. Saw some folks actually rank you in the top 25 today. Liberty currently has their highest Ken Palm ranking in school history. So what is that like? How is it, like, first off, like, how cool is that for you guys to be a part of? But also, how do you kind of, try to temper that and kind of the new expectations that have quickly rose to the team? Yeah,
I mean, like you guys said earlier, it is November. So, I mean, it's a long season. It's a long season, and we know that. So, I mean, we don't get caught up in the rankings. We don't get caught up in the expectations, because we collectively know on the inside, like, what we're capable of, and what the coaches believe we can do as well. So, like, yeah, it's cool and all, but we understand the end goal, and that goal is not to be ranked right now in November. We want to be one of the best teams at the end of the year.
Yeah. Hey, you talked earlier about, how the coaching staff is very clear with, what expectations are for you and, like, other teammates, and, like, how you specifically can help the team, outside of Coach McKay, who, every time the camera catches him on TV, he is never smiling. He does not look like he's having a good time. But is there another coach that you, like, specifically have really connected with that you feel has really helped your game since you've been here?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say one specifically, but that's what makes our coaching staff so special. They all collectively have their own part in making each individual the best version of themselves. And so and the thing about our coaches is, yeah, they want us to be the best basketball player we can be, but they also want us to be the best person outside of basketball as well. So I wouldn't even say, like, they've necessarily helped me most on the court. It's really been off the court. And that's what's been so special about it.
All right, Kaden. So huge game coming up on Thursday. Number 13, Florida Atlantic. You guys are going to be going down there. Team that played in the Final Four last year. What's kind of your initial thoughts on this Florida Atlantic team?
Yeah, I mean, obviously seeing what they did last year, that's a goal of ours, to achieve what they did last year. So, I mean, I would be lying to say if we weren't a little extra motivated for this one. Man, they're a great team. They're showing it. Then again, now winning the tournament they were just in, beating some really quality opponents. So it's going to be a test for us, and we're excited for it. We're excited to see how we can do. But like I've said before, it is November, so it's a nice test early to see what we can do. But we're going to go in there with a lot of confidence, like every game. We believe we can play with the best, and we're glad we have them on the schedule for sure.
Yeah, and then you've got, right after FAU, you've got Alabama coming up after that. So some big tests. From your perspective, how do you guys, or, even how do you specifically approach, like, these non-conference games? Is it, do you see it as merely just preparation for conference play, or is it more like, for you guys, more like resume building, or, is it getting to know your team, seeing different styles of play from different teams, or how do you kind of gauge the non-conference?
I think every game is its own entity. Every game is a way to learn more about us. And when it comes down to it, it's Liberty against Liberty. It's all about us. So after every game, we get to learn a couple things that maybe we need to get better at, or a couple things that maybe we are good at and want to keep getting better at those. And that's what's so good about the non-conferences. And like this year, I mean, our non-conference is loaded with great teams. And we think that's going to get us prepared for Conference USA, because we don't know what Conference USA is going to be like yet. So we think these great quality opponents in the non-conference is really just ways to see how we can improve and just get us ready for Conference USA for sure.
All right, Kaden, last question for you. Liberty 0-19 all time against AP top 25 teams. Obviously, a lot of that came, before Liberty's, kind of rose to the incredible level you guys have risen to. But how cool would it be to get that first ever top 25 win?
That would be pretty cool. Not gonna lie, that'd be pretty cool. But like I said, every game has its own entity, and we're definitely a little bit excited for this one for sure.
Awesome. Well, Kaden, really appreciate the time. Best of luck in this tournament. Also, really looking forward to the game against Charleston, another really good opponent as well on Friday. We'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys.
All right, thanks, Kaden. All right, we're going to have a quick word from Jason Porter Real Estate, and then we'll be back. We'll preview the FAU and Charleston games.
Well, hey, everybody. My name is Jason Porter. I'm with Legacy Realty and Development, and it's been a great partnership here with Sea of Red lately. I was with Liberty Athletics as the Associate Athletic Director for Sports Medicine, so took care of all of the healthcare needs and coordinated that with a fantastic staff at Liberty in the athletic department, of course, for about 5 or 6 years, and then moved into real estate full time and with Legacy Realty and Development. And it's just been a great pleasure to continue to stay connected with my Liberty University family and the athletics family as well. Been enjoying serving them. A lot of the graduate assistants and some of the staff that I hired has come back now and has been using me for residential services, which I really appreciate. But certainly do residential real estate as far as buying and selling of homes, of course. And then also we have a strong commercial presence as well. So commercial real estate, obviously a very, very different animal than is residential. But whether it's buying and selling commercial properties or just the leasing of properties, we can help with that as well. So it's been a great opportunity to service our commercial clients as well. And then certainly on the investment front too, a number of folks who have discovered the power of passive income through real estate and investing in real estate with rental properties or fix and flips, those kind of things. And so great joy to serve my clients in that capacity as well. The other thing that I would add too is just a very, very full Rolodex at this point of contractors and subs and just different professional contacts that I've made through the years. So if I can ever provide any of those folks to you when all of a sudden you need a plumber or an electrician or a contractor to build your deck, whatever, I'd certainly be glad to give you access to that Rolodex and those references as well. Because a lot of times it's not exactly who you know, it's who you know that knows how to do the job well. And so I would be glad to provide those services for you as well. So love Flames Nation, love taking care of my Liberty family. And if there's ever anything I can do for you, my contact information is all right here on the screen. And I would love to be a service to you and yours. Thanks so much.
All right, we are joined now by Kevin Fielder. Kevin, you are a FAU alum. I know you write a little bit about FAU, but tell everyone about kind of all the. Looks like you do a plethora of things.
Yeah, I actually left the FAU beat probably a couple months ago. To take a job covering Kansas State, but for the last 4 years, I was covering FAU basketball, and I was front and center for their rise from empty gyms and. In the empty high school gyms, as everyone likes to say on Twitter, to covering a Final Four run. Now, I guess this year, trying to build off of that with pretty much the same core from top to bottom.
Yeah, Kevin, me and Will know a little bit about that. Not the Final Four yet. We're hoping to get to that point, but we definitely were at a few Liberty games back when the tickets were a little easier to come by than they are now. So Kevin, talk to us about this year's team. Obviously, let's step back. I want to know first, as someone who obviously cares about the FAU program, what was that Final Four run like last year?
I always say that it was surreal because at every single turn from, the beginning of the season to the end of it when they had lost on whatever that shot was, it was always surreal because you never really expected it to happen. Mid-season, you're like, dang, this team looks pretty good. They may be they may make the tournament. Then they clinch a tournament spot and you're like, okay, that was cool. When does it end? Right. And it's like they get Memphis in round one. You're going, Yeah, that's probably it for Memphis, right? I mean, just, you're playing a good Memphis team and, they've got talent, they've got dudes, and then they win the game on a buzzer beat and you're like, okay. Then they've got FDU and you're like, okay, they could probably beat FDU, right? Purdue couldn't, but, you think that FAU can. Then you go to the Sweet 16, you've got Tennessee, and you go, all right, that's it. Tennessee's a high major program. They've just got more talent than you. It's over there. Then they win that game. And then you're like, okay, well, I mean, it probably doesn't end here, right? Then it doesn't end. It felt like at every turn, it was like they were defying some expectation that I had set on them. And, I had always been sort of a little bit more bearish on them than others in the sense of, they probably have a chance of being good in the NCAA tournament. And then, it's probably just going to end in the round of 32 or the round of 64. And, outside of the one bracket I put where FAU made the Final Four because, well, I'm an FAU alum and I have to do it regardless. But other than that, I was just like, yeah, you know what? It's probably going to end here. And at no point did it really end. And it was surreal. And, I think at some point you sort of buy into it and you go, you know what? This is what it is. And it was... I always just say it was surreal because you never really expected it. And, covering a Cinderella team, not, a team that was expected to be there when the season started, made it even cooler.
And I was going to, just real quick, we'll get to you, Will, I was going to say for maybe the gift of getting Fairleigh Dickinson to the second round, Tennessee was pretty underseeded in a lot of people. They finished season 6th in KenPom. So it wasn't necessarily like they just had this, easy path to the Final Four, right?
Yeah, they got Fairleigh Dickinson, and Fairleigh Dickinson gave them trouble because Fairleigh Dickinson gave everyone trouble in the tournament. We all watched them beat Purdue, and then you get Tennessee, and I thought it ended there. I thought once they got Tennessee, they just didn't have a chance, right? Tennessee is that good at basketball, and they beat Tennessee, and I thought that Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson and Kansas State would just be too much, right? They didn't just beat up on bad teams. They beat up on teams that people either thought would make the Final Four or the Elite Eight, or teams that they thought could win a national championship. There were people predicting Tennessee to win the national championship. So, I never really bought into the idea, and I know everyone else wanted to, that oh, they were just playing bad teams. They got lucky. They didn't really get lucky. They were just kind of better than those teams.
Yeah, they found it at the right time, right? Well, just a little geography for, Lynchburg is pretty close to UVA, pretty close to Virginia Tech. What was it like for the community of Boca to kind of get behind Florida Atlantic? Of course, the alum are, very excited about that, but did you see much impact in the area for that?
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, FAU just doesn't get a lot of community support in basketball before last season, right? There were fans going, some alumni, some boosters, some students would go because, well, it's a basketball game on campus, but there wasn't sold out crowds. Most of the crowds were empty, and Dusty May had tried to change that. And I think, at some point you just sort of reserve it to, it's going to have to happen through wins. And so when they started to win and they make the NCAA tournament, everyone in the area is talking about FAU, right? I would go to the grocery store wearing an FAU jacket and someone would stop me and talk about them. And before, if you're wearing an FAU jacket, everyone just sort of looks and keeps walking because there's nothing to talk about with FAU basketball or even FAU football at that time. So the community really embraced the team. And I think the thing that's interesting was it was not just a 1 month embrace. After the season ended, they held a sort of a congratulations party kind of thing. And that thing was sold out too. They held it at an outdoor amphitheater thing. And there was not, you couldn't even walk there without bumping into someone. And then, this season, the first 2 home games of the season against Eastern Michigan and Bryant is sold out. And I tried to get tickets to one of the games, right? As a fan, and the tickets were $50 each. And 2 years ago, the ticket was $5, and frankly, you probably could have walked in and they wouldn't have stopped you. So everything changed, and everyone started to embrace the program. And to the community's credit, they're still embracing the program.
Yeah, I got some notes here on FAU. So last year, finished 17th in KenPom, never ranked higher than 129 prior to that, never ranked higher than 186 before Dusty May came along. So we thought like Liberty's leap from 2018 to 2019 was a lot. This is like on a whole nother level. But Kevin, obviously FAU loses to Bryant, and everyone comes out of the woodwork. Oh, FAU's overrated. FAU's overrated. And then what do? They turn around and beat Butler, beat number 12 Texas A&M, and then just absolutely beat the snot out of Virginia Tech. So before we talk about that tournament, what happened against Bryant? How did that game happen?
I always say this as someone who's watched basketball for a long time and talks to coaches every day from the high school level and the college level. Like, there are just some games where, man, the ball just is not going in the hoop. And that was one of those games. Like, I think that they were probably a little over-reliant on the three ball in that game. And they start taking some shots when they get down 5 or 6 because, there's pressure on FAU now, right? Like, I mean, the old cliche of they're going to get another team's best game is true, right? Like, they got Bryant's best shot and they hung around and they sort of kept delivering some punches to stay in the game, but they just couldn't make shots down the stretch. And it was concerning to a sense. Like, yeah, man, you got to make shots eventually. But like, I also think that like, it was just one of those games. And obviously during the tournament, during that ESPN Invitational, they had proven that it was just one of those games. And you have those games throughout the season. Last season, FAU had those games, and for the most part, they were able to survive them and pull out wins. And so we'll see if this year they're able to survive those games where they shoot 30%, 20% from three, and it just feels like the ball isn't going in the hoop. But it was just really one of those games for the most part.
Well, so this tournament, I watched a little bit of these games. I watched. I put on a replay of Texas A&M, fell asleep to that last night. And kind of my initial observation is just, obviously FAU has some really, really talented players, but they played, at least against Texas A&M, so disciplined. That was kind of the biggest takeaway that I had, is it's not just that you have really good players, you also have really disciplined players. Top 25 offense, top 40 defense, both of the last 2 years. So a balanced team. Is that kind of what you see out of this team?
Yeah, under Dusty May, they're balanced, they're disciplined, they know their roles. Like, all the cliches I could throw out there, they probably fit. I think the thing was against Butler in particular, they felt like they were playing a little too rigid. And last season, the thing that sort of defined FAU was they played freely, they played loosely, they played like they had nothing to lose. And I think to an extent, it's because they had nothing to lose, right? Like, this is a team that had never been in that situation before, so you're not playing with these lofty and crushing expectations on you. This season, early on the season, it just sort of felt like something was off, right? Like, you can't really explain it. It just sort of feels like something isn't right and something isn't clicking. And then against Texas A&M and Virginia Tech, they just felt looser. Against Texas A&M, Elijah Martin started to get a little hot. He started to hit his shots a little bit more. And, he was having the same confidence that he had last season of, he wasn't afraid to take a shot. And if he missed the shot, he'd go back and he'd take that shot again 3 different times. It's felt like in some of these early games, he was just sort of trying to find his rhythm. I think part of that is because he was hurt. He had a stress fracture in the offseason. And as he's recovering from that, I think he's just trying to an extent, take it easy. But now, he's playing like someone who is looking to win games again and is comfortable in his role and comfortable taking those shots. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that now, through these last 2 games, this is a team playing comfortably. And this is a team that's sort of embracing those lofty expectations. And they're not a team that feels like it's a crushing weight of expectations on them, that like they have to be at their best during every single game.
So Elijah Martin, as you mentioned, he was co-preseason AAC Player of the Year, but the reason he was co-preseason AAC Player of the Year is because he was co-players with his teammate, which just shows how ridiculously talented this team is. But on Martin, one thing that stood out for me, obviously scored 55 points in the 3 games in the ESPN Invitational, scored 26 in the Final Four against San Diego State, very efficient shooting in that game, and then scored 30 points in the CUSA championship game. Is he just a player that feels like he kind of really rises to the moment in these big games?
Yeah, he was the guy last year when they needed a bucket. He was going to be the guy with the ball in his hands, and he was going to try and make a play. And the thing that is really impressive is his growth as a complete offensive player. Like, he's no longer just the athletic dude who can dunk. He's the athletic dude who can dunk, who can shoot the three, who can play as an off-ball, secondary scorer if he needs to. He's still a great defender. Like, he's now become that all-around player that not only do NBA scouts covet, but the FAU team needed that, right? Like, they needed a dude who's going to step up and make plays. And he's the guy who, when FAU needs a bucket, even if he's shooting 4 for 30 from the floor, he's never seen a shot he doesn't like. And I think that's like really what FAU needed, was a dude who is not going to be afraid to take the shot, not going to be afraid of the expectations and the weight of taking said shot. He's just going to take the shot and he's going to live with the results of it because he trusts his own abilities.
And then one other player I wanted to ask you about is the other co-player of the year, Davis Jr. Scouting report in here: compact, strong, powerful two-guard who projects as a possible second-round pick in the 2024 draft. I know both of these players tested the NBA draft waters and decided to come back. What makes Davis such a special player? I know he was sixth man of the year last year, has kind of had to carry a little bit more of a load this season.
So I love John L. Davis, right? Because John L. Davis is one of those guys you cover and he doesn't say much. Like, he's not a very good interview, but you just sort of feel like he's got that confidence to him. And he's got that ability of, like, I'm going to beat you, right? Like, you're going to punch me and I'm going to punch you back 3 different times. And I'm going to make you fall to the ground because, like, some of that's his upbringing. Some of that's the fact that he was a little bit under recruited coming out of high school. And now he's into this position where he's the guy and he's played point guard. He's played like small ball 5. He plays across the floor and he makes plays, right? He's a playmaker. He's a guy who's going to get the plays, who's going to, be a solid passer and distributor. And then, if you need a bucket, he's going to be able to find a way to create his own shot. I think that he's probably, as of now, the more likely NBA talent between him and Martin. I think both are going to be on NBA scouting, NBA scouts watch lists. Same with Vlad Golden, the center who's played incredibly good this season. But Davis in particular, right? Like, he's the NBA talent of a guy who can do a little bit of everything. Sort of jack of all trades, really not a master of none. Like, he's not going to stand out and be like an elite 3-point shooter or an elite point, like an elite 2-guard, but he's just going to be really dang good at everything. And for me, those guys sort of really help. Because, you need guys who can score buckets, you need guys who are going to play good defense. You also need guys who you can just trust to do everything. And that's what John L. Davis is. He's a guy who can just do everything for you.
So Nick Boyd was out during that tournament. I wouldn't expect you to have the full inside scoop. I know college coaches are about as hard to get, especially at the basketball level, about as hard to get injury information out as just about anything else. Do you have any idea if he is coming back? Do you have how big of a loss is he if he's not in the lineup? Obviously, they played very well without him this past weekend.
Yeah. So Dusty May had mentioned, I seen it on Twitter, and I wish I could tell you who it was who had tweeted out. I think it was like Bleacher Brothers or something. I if I'm wrong there, like, I apologize to the person who tweeted this out, but like, he was a guy. Dusty May had said that he's probably not going to play against Liberty. I think his words were, I don't expect it, but I'm not going to rule it out. Right. Like, so to some degree, like, I don't think it was expected that Giancarlo Rosado, the other guy who was out for most of that ESPN Invitational, was going to play against Virginia Tech, but he played against Virginia Tech. So I wouldn't rule it out, but it feels like they're going to be without him for Liberty. And that's a loss. He's the quintessential role player who just makes the key shot, doesn't get the attention that other guys get, but when you need the 3, he's going to make the 3s. He's been a really good, playmaker for them. I'm going to say, though, that, like, to their credit, FAU's got the depth to sort of forget about him into a sense. Like, they can handle a game without him, and they proved that during the ESPN Invitational. If he can't go, I think we're going to see a lot more of Brian Greenlee and Jabbar Gaffney, or Jalen Gaffney, excuse me. Jabbar Gaffney's the football player, but Jalen Gaffney, and I think that those two have proven that they can be high-level, impactful role players. Greenlee's a great shooter. Gaffney's a great defender. they're going to use them both. And then if Nick Boyd can play, that's a huge boost for FAU, but he's not a guy who like is irreplaceable. And I don't really think there's a guy on FAU's team that, if they had to miss him for a game, he's irreplaceable. But Nick Boyd is like the quintessential role player who FAU would like to have in a game like this.
Well, you got any other questions for Kevin?
Yeah. Well, Kevin, Conference USA, Liberty's new to the conference. Florida Atlantic is out and, went out on top. Is that something that's just, for you, just rear view mirror, or is, are there still like some interest there in kind of what, is happening in Conference USA?
I think that I'm just that guy who, the quintessential, I guess we call him sickos committee. I watch every college basketball, right? Like I was watching Hawaii scrimmages on ESPN Plus because it's college basketball. So I am interested in the Conference USA. And I think it's a conference that this year in particular looks a little interesting because Liberty is really dang good at basketball. And, I think Middle Tennessee is always up there for basketball. And there are some other teams in that conference who interest you because you don't know what they're going to give you on any given night. And so like, I'm watching the conference still, like, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm the expert who can like pull out the stats on every single player in the conference. Like maybe I was last season because I had to be, but like, it's still an interesting conference, and football was still probably not as interesting, but the basketball itself is, I think, always going to be interesting in Conference USA.
What's your thoughts on the AAC? Obviously, a much bigger conference than Conference USA. You don't get to play like the true round robin. What's kind of your thoughts on some of these other teams and some new teams, some not, that you're going to see this year?
Yeah, I love the way that Conference USA is built, or not a Conference USA, the American is built this year. Obviously there's the new rivalry with Memphis that every FAU fan loves to latch onto. And, you have USF, who I'm really excited for. I think that they're sort of building a team that's going to be competitive. Then you've got the newcomers in this conference. We're talking North Texas, UAB. Like these are teams that were constantly at the top of Conference USA, and I think they're going to be at the top of the American. And I'm really excited that this is a multiple bid league because it feels like this season there's going to be a few teams that are in the hunt for at least the conversation of making the tournament. And, hopefully it's a league that, you get more than two. Like it would be kind of disappointing if it's two and it's like Memphis and FAU, because I think that some other teams are playing at a high level. Tulane, for example. And then you mentioned those newcomers who were at the top of Conference USA last year and were playing well in tournaments. And so like it was weird because Conference USA got left with the scraps, but those scraps are still pretty good. But yeah, I mean, I think the American this year is going to be incredibly exciting to watch, especially once we get into conference play.
I don't think you'll have to worry about East Carolina too much.
Oh, no, probably not. I mean, in football, FAU had to worry about them seemingly, but that's another conversation. This is not a football show, and I'd rather it not be.
We won't have to worry about Wichita and Charlotte. Liberty already beat up on them.
Yeah.
Last question for you. I really appreciate your time. This has been awesome, kind of getting to know Liberty's next opponent in this really big game coming up. Outside of the top two players, the co-players of the year, who's one guy that really you think maybe is the other key for this game against Liberty?
I'm going to give you two. I had mentioned Vlad Golden, and I think that, I'd mentioned on Twitter that, if there were not superhumans at center in the nation right now, he'd be an All-American candidate because he's a double-double machine. He's a guy who's added stuff to his game. He's become a little bit better of a playmaker. He's become a reliable free throw shooter, and that's a credit to his work ethic. And then I'm also going to say his backup, Giancarlo Rosado. He didn't play a lot during the ESPN Invitational, but when you have a guy like him off the bench and they've experimented with playing them both together, you have another big man who, unlike Golden, is sort of a modern day big man in the sense that he can dribble, he can make plays with the ball in his hands, and he's got a little bit of a jump shot. He's not going to stretch it out to the 3-point line, but a mid-range jumper, a jumper from the elbow, like he can make those jumpers and he can drive with the ball in his hands. And so he's one of those guys that like you sort of get the yin and the yang with Rosado and Golden, of like both these guys who can do different things at a really high level. And when they're playing together, like it's sort of unique because they take similar areas on the court, and FAU doesn't like to clog the lane so much, but it's worked at times because they can still both do something a little bit different. Like Rosado plays a little bit more at the free throw line and dribbles and tries to make plays from there. And I think Golden's more of your typical, like when you think of post up centers, he's a guy who's going to post up and use the 7-foot body that he's got to his advantage.
Awesome. Well, Kevin, really do appreciate all your time. Thanks so much for coming on here on short notice and giving us a preview, and good luck this week.
Absolutely. Thanks. And anytime, guys, and happy to be on.
All right.
Thanks.
We're going to have a quick word from Experience Leesburg, and then we'll be back to wrap this bad boy up.
It's real Florida. It's old Florida, and it's close to all of the Central Florida attractions. Crystal clear natural springs in one of the largest chain of lakes. The beautiful lakefront city of Leesburg offers the best in outdoor adventures, fishing, and quaint shops and restaurants on historic downtown Main Street. Come visit and see how welcoming a hometown city feels. Experience Leesburg, the way Florida is meant to be.
All right. Well, there you go. There's your FAU preview. Huge game, Will. Man, I'm jacked for this. I won't actually be able to watch live, unfortunately. I'm going to be traveling on Thursday, so I'll be shutting off the phone. I will watch that late at night. Try to watch it live without any spoilers. And I'm not sure if I'll be able to watch Charlotte at all. So rough weekend to be traveling, but nonetheless, I'm still very excited for these games and this test for Liberty. Anything from that interview or anything about FAU really kind of stand out to you, Will?
Not much other than Kevin is the Florida Atlantic version of Nick Kirby. No, like just really good information about, Martin, John L. Davis Jr. Hey, if you were Coach McKay, who are you putting on those guys?
I'd probably put Van Zandt on Davis. Davis is about 2 inches taller, so
yeah.
Florida Atlantic has a kind of a wild main rotation. They have 6'0", 6'3", 6'2", 6'4", and then 7'1". So they run pretty small four guards. They will play some of they have a 6'8" and a 6'9" guy off the bench. They'll play one of those sometimes with Vlad Golden, their 7'1" guy. But I mean, obviously, I think Van Zandt goes on Davis, and then obviously the test for Cleveland and Shiloh, and maybe even Sutherland. We've kind of saw him get some minutes of late. On Vlad Golden will be huge. Interested to see if his early season free throw shooting can keep up. He's up to 70% this year, but last year he was only at 58.5%. And the year before that was just barely over 61%. So he hasn't been a very good free throw shooter. It's small sample, but he's improved. But is he due for some, free throw regression for a guy that hasn't, shot very well overall? But the 7'1" guy out of Russia, Texas Tech transfer. They're talented, man. I watched a little bit of that tournament, and then last night I tried to really focus in and watch a little bit of that Texas A&M game, as that was their toughest. I don't know what the heck happened against Bryant, because I watched that game. I'm just like, man, these guys are good. This is a legit top 10 caliber team. This team's better than Alabama. I know if Liberty beats Alabama, that's going to be the game that everyone would they're a tougher team than Alabama. This is a legit top 10, at least top 15 team. This is a team that can make the Final Four again. Liberty would have to have an incredible effort to beat this team on the road.
Yeah, I feel like the defensive effort is going to really have to be there.
Yeah.
Florida Atlantic shoots a lot of threes, and they make a lot of threes. So I feel like if you can get that pack line locked in pretty early, create some confusion, maybe make them force some bad shots, you got a chance of them kind of maybe running out of gas towards the end with some tired legs, maybe missing some of those 3-pointers. I think the defense is going to keep them in the game no matter what. And you hope that this is not one of those games that Liberty, usually has, 2 or 3 times a season where they just cannot buy a bucket.
Yeah, gonna have to make threes in this game.
Yeah,
that is for sure. FAU top 40 in 3-point defense so far this year. So no, they're not actually that good. They're only 121st in 3-point defense. I was looking at the wrong one. But yeah, I mean, they are overall a good defensive team. But they'll give up some threes. So yeah, it'll be interesting. This will be a great test. I'm interested to see. Liberty has felt like they've had much more depth early in this year than I think any of us anticipated. Feels a lot deeper. How will that depth look against the best team that you've played all year? That's kind of what I'm looking for. How are some of the the Liberty role players? How Brody Peebles? How can Brody Peebles kind of be the guy that we've seen that's been just that bucket getter off the bench? How will could Xander Yates provide something off the bench? I'm not really as worried about Rode and Metheny and Porter. But yeah, I think Shiloh might be the big key off the bench coming in and providing that second center. Maybe McKay tries to play Cleveland and Robinson together, especially since FAU sometimes will have Davis at 6'4" playing the 4. This is a fun coaching matchup, as these two guys are two of the best mid-major coaches in the entire country. So really looking forward to that
yeah. I feel like McKay is usually playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers. I think Cleveland could be a key in this game. A little bit scary against Maryland Eastern Shore there in the first few minutes where he was kind of grabbing at his elbow. And I mean, he stayed in the game, but you don't know how much of that is adrenaline. If it's, I haven't heard anything about it being more serious or, anything than just a little pain at the beginning, of the game. But hopefully there's nothing there. But he's played with a lot of intensity. He's kind of, backing some guys down, and I think, might need some of that.
Yeah. And I mean, heard some reports. Cleveland's kind of, maybe Liberty's potential NBA talent. This is a game you need an NBA talent type player to step up. So yeah, I like that a lot. Liberty does play another game this week against another really, really good team in Charleston. This was a team that coming off a 31-4 season. They lost by 6 points in the NCAA tournament to San Diego State, the team that beat FAU in the Final Four. So it's not like they lost to some scrub. Last year, they finished 71st in KenPom, their best since 2011. They're picked to win the CAA. So yet another team. What is this, Will? This is the fourth team that Liberty's plays. That's Furman was picked to win. Vermont was picked to win. FAU's picked to win their conference. Charleston picked to win their conference. I think Grand Canyon's picked to win their conference. Bama's probably not picked to win the SEC, but I mean, they're 8th in KenPom right now. So like, man, this is a really, really good non-conference edge. You remember Kelsey from his days down at Winthrop, right?
Yeah, and he had good teams in Winthrop, and he's got a good team in Charleston. It's going to be a good test. Yeah, I think some of those Myrtle Beach games that we played will come back to maybe help us with a team like Charleston.
Yeah, Charleston played a much faster tempo overall, but they've slowed it down a little bit. You don't know if that's just some of the opponents you played and that stuff will even out or not. Without watching every single Charleston Cougars game, I can't say that I have, but I do like their program. I think that I love this tournament. I love that you're facing really. I mean, Liberty, Charleston, and FAU are like three of like the mid majors that have come from really not a whole lot to really national prominence in a short time. Really, in all parts, thanks to their three coaches.
Yeah, I feel like Liberty is playing a little bit quicker this year. maybe if maybe that's just a byproduct of personnel changes and things like that. I don't know if a slower tempo Charleston is an advantage or a disadvantage. I don't know that much about, how the game is played, but it does seem to me like Liberty is playing a little bit quicker. Is it? I don't know what the numbers say about that. Is that something that would be reflected in some Nick Kirby special statistics?
The numbers do not at all reflect that. Liberty is 291st in adjusted tempo. They were 302nd last year, 273rd the year before. But what I will say, Will, is I feel like Liberty's been a lot more. There's been a lot more ball movement, and I feel like there's been some long possessions, but there's not the dribbling around shots. Like everything feels so intentional on offense that it feels like they are playing quick, but they're not just jacking up shots. And I think they're having long possessions, but they're really working the ball around. Like we haven't seen, I don't want to say ever, but at least in a couple years, we haven't saw, I think I feel like they're playing faster, but it's not actually like faster in terms of more possessions, if that makes sense.
Yeah. A little bit of an illusion there just because of the ball movement.
So these two teams, my last kind of thought on FAU and Charleston, man, when FAU lost to Bryant, I was just like, oh man, that's the worst, because they're motivated, like they can't afford another slip up, and obviously Liberty's a great team. Liberty's a top 40, Ken Pom team, so Liberty's great in their own right, but FAU really can't afford to lose to Liberty at home. Like if it's a neutral floor game, it's a little bit different, but kind of all the momentum they built, it would kind of wash away a little bit. So you're not going to sneak up on FAU. And then Charleston, man, they had a really tough tournament in Myrtle Beach, only beating a really, really garbage Charleston or Coastal Carolina team. So they've also they really need this game. So, man, you're facing Charleston's a desperate team. FAU is I think a very motivated team. So Liberty's going to absolutely have to bring it in both of these games.
Double-edged sword, right? I mean, you want to you want to win, obviously, and if you lose, you want to keep it really close so that it doesn't maybe hurt you down the road.
5 points or less will keep you in the same Ken Pom standing. So that is a very important. But you beat Florida Atlantic. I'll say it. You start at least making a at-large conversation, at least a conversation, right? I mean,
you move up in those top 25 rankings too a little bit, don't you?
If Liberty, this is a big if, because winning both of these games, a true road game against Florida Atlantic, a neutral floor game in Florida against Charleston, they win both these games. If they're not right to the top 25, those pollsters are not doing their research, because you cannot tell me there are 25 teams that would have a better resume than Charlotte, Furman, Wichita State, Vermont, Florida Atlantic, and Charleston. And Florida Atlantic being a true road game. I mean, Liberty should be a top 25 team and it's a huge if, they were to pull off these two wins this week.
Don't get our hopes up, Kirby. Don't do it.
I mean, I'm not. 30% odds, 30% chance of winning. It's possible. It's possible, especially, both these teams shoot the three ball so much. It's possible, and that's kind of what makes Liberty have a high ceiling, but also makes you suspect to lose some of these games. But I do feel like this team is, as much as they do still rely on the three ball, I mean, they're still top 25 in 3-point attempts per possession. It does feel like they're maybe a little bit more protected than some teams in recent memory in terms of if they do have an off shooting night, because they do feel like they have more ways that they can beat you. Do you feel that?
Yeah. I feel like, we just talked about it. Like, as much as we love Darius and one of the greatest, he's on the Mount Rushmore, but, sometimes like he was the only guy that was going to create a shot. And sometimes it wasn't, the best quality shot. But it feels like Kaden is a guy that can get inside there. Brody is a guy that can get inside there. Rode, Shiloh, Cleveland, I think, if Xander Yates and Sutherland stay in rotation, that those are guys that eventually are going to learn their way inside. And so there's just multiple ways, even the guys that are cutting inside are going to get fouled a lot. So, and get to the free throw line and get free points. So it does feel like there's multiple ways that Liberty is going to get you somehow.
Yeah. Well, and even the three ball, there's a lot of different 3-point shooters. Like Rode, Metheny, and Peebles are elite 3-point shooters. Those guys are open. They're banging them in. And I think Colin Porter is maybe not as elite as those guys, but is going to hit the open shot. So you really have four really, really good weapons from deep.
If I could use a baseball analogy, it's like having like a bullpen game, right? Yeah. Like you have a bullpen game, and not everybody is going to be off. You've got a decent chance of your bullpen going pretty deep into a game, and it's the same way with the 3-point shooters. Not everybody is going to be off. You find the hot hand, and hopefully there's a balance there, and everybody is draining threes. But if one guy is having a bad day, then you've got other options you can go to.
Yeah. All right, let's take a quick look at Liberty's upcoming schedule. Obviously, FAU and Charleston this week. Liberty does still have one really huge non-conference home game against Grand Canyon, and our guy Ryan in the on Facebook saying the arena better pack out the house against GCU. I agree, Ryan. We said it last week. I hope Liberty really pushes this game. I hope that in Convo they show a little video of Grand Canyon's home games, and they challenge the students to try to match their energy, because they have an incredible home court advantage. Grand Canyon, actually, I was watching them on Saturday. Cost me a little bit of coin, not going to lie. I had North Dakota State plus 14.5, and Grand Canyon was down 4 at halftime and somehow still won the game by 15 points. So,
hey, that's how loaded this out of conference schedule is that you hit Myrtle Beach, you hit Florida Atlantic, and I always forget that Grand Canyon is still there.
Yeah,
like, it's still right there, and maybe it's because I'm looking ahead and I've got like the P5 glasses on, so I'm seeing through the lenses of man, you got an Alabama coming up. But I forget like the Grand Canyon. That's such an important game right there.
Well, in Utah Valley, that's a tough game on the road as a true road game. Utah Valley, of course, they had a really good run in the NIT last year. Now they did get absolutely destroyed by Charlotte, a team that Liberty beat pretty well. That was at Charlotte. So they've been a little down so far this year, but that's obviously traveling across the country and playing a true road game. That always scares you. And right before, Alabama, right before Christmas, obviously Mississippi Valley State, that's as close to a gimme game as you get. We're not even going to discuss the St. Peter's, whatever that school is. Tennessee State should be a pretty easy game at home, but man, you still got 3 really quality non-conference games even after this tournament. So yeah, what an awesome schedule this year.
Yeah, exciting. It's exciting to watch a lot of these games and then not have any kind of drop off once you get into conference play.
Yeah, they did a pretty good job balancing out the 3 NIAA Division 7 schools. So shout out to the scheduling for that. All right, we already went through the CUSA rankings. Let's just, before we get out of here, tell you what's going on in CUSA this week, as we always do. Let me put this full screen so you can see it a little bit better. Florida Gulf Coast, FIU. That is on Wednesday at 6:00. That's kind of a fun little matchup. FIU, they've had kind of an up and down year. Of course, they almost beat Miami, but they've also had some really clanker performances as well. Sam Houston, they're going to get a top 100 game against Arizona State. Louisiana Tech, they're going to get a top 100 game against New Mexico. So really a loaded day on Wednesday night around CUSA. And then wrapping it up over the weekend, Middle Tennessee, they got a tough game against Wofford. They're always tough in the SoCon. See if they can bounce back. And then it's the week of playing New Mexico as New Mexico State plays New Mexico. It's always a fun rivalry Did you see Will? Did you see let me pull this out. Did you see New Mexico State on Sunday had to finish the game with 4 players against Louisville. They took Louisville to overtime, and they should have won the game. Louisville kind of had a crazy comeback at the end. They had like 6 guys foul out. They had to finish overtime with 4 players.
Oh man. Well, hey, I know we do men's basketball, but our women's team had a pretty good showing against number 20 Louisville on the women's side.
They pulled that off
the other night. They lost by like 9 or something like that, I think.
Okay.
After just getting completely trounced by Gonzaga the day before. So,
hey, I mean, Louisville's women's team would assuredly beat their men's team this year. So, I mean, no question about it.
Shout out to the girls, because we don't talk about them that much with basketball, but shout out to Carrie Green and company, who always keep Liberty women's basketball relevant on the mountain.
Yeah. Hey, if someone wants to do a Sea of Red ladies basketball podcast, I'll help you get set up. We'll do it. I'm sure Chad and John will be all about it. So if there's someone that has the passion for that, let's do it. Let's go. I think we should have a lacrosse a podcast. I think we should have a track and field. Do we have a water polo team? Hockey? Let's do it all. Let's have all the podcasts. Maybe we'll do it one night every week. I can only do one. So if there's anyone else out there that wants to do it, make it happen. Let's go.
I'm all for a baseball podcast. I'm all in on that one.
All right, you're on your own on that. I'll be I'll be grinding that time of year. But if you want to start one, I'll set you up, and I'll give you the keys. But
right,
wrap it up. Wrap it up. The CUSA week. So fun games on Sunday as well. Jack State against East Tennessee State. That's always a quality opponent. And then Western Kentucky against our old friends at Eastern Kentucky. So really fun week at CUSA. Hopefully some of the teams that have kind of had a really bad couple weeks can have some either maybe a couple wins, but at least some really good performances. At least kind of get those metrics back up because your boy is sadly all about that. Will, you got any final thoughts before we wrap this bad boy up?
No, man. I finished some of my. We hope the answer is yes, Jackson. We hope the answer is yes coming up to every single game. We hope is yes.
Well, you always win when you drink a cup of Ironclad coffee, though. Is that right?
Always a winner. Always a winner. It's Ironclad. It's a lock. Bet on Ironclad.
You're always a winner when you drink Ironclad. You're always a winner when you buy a house from Jason Porter. And you're definitely a winner if you visit Leesburg. Is that right?
That's correct. That's
Any
correct.
final thoughts, my friend?
No, man. I finished up my Thanksgiving leftovers tonight. And so I hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving. Hope the crowd shows up Friday night to the football game, shows up back at Liberty Arena when basketball gets back off the road, and let's just go do a lot of winning.
I love it. All right, well, we will be back next week. Not sure on the day I'll be traveling this weekend. Maybe we're going to do Monday night. We'll let you know, of course. Back to recap this exciting weekend for Liberty. Real quick before we get out of here, if you are not subscribed to a Sea of Red on YouTube, do that. Also, hit like on every single video you ever see. That stuff really helps us Sea of Red continue to hopefully grow the brand. And, of course, always visit SeaofRed.com for all the latest. John Manson, I don't know when this guy sleeps, but the guy literally has an article like every 20 minutes up on the site. No one covers Liberty better and just does an awesome job, and it's just really cool, the platform that he's built, and he's let 2 knuckleheads come on and talk basketball. So appreciate you, John. Appreciate you, Chad. Appreciate all you Liberty fans. Let's go beat FAU. Have a great week, everyone.